Hello.
Hello.
Oh, it didn't work.
Hello.
I didn't go first. I thought ladies first, and then my brilliant thing didn't work. We should do that every time. Hello, hello,
We should.
hello.
And it's possible that we should
We should-
practice it first.
Maybe.
Yeah. Let's become a barbershop trio.
Well, we have to make money somehow. How are you all doing this week? Are you okay?
Yeah.
Yes, I'm good.
Yeah.
How you
You
doing,
look-
Gleany?
I'm all right. I'm getting a bit worried about money, to be honest. I need to figure out a way to monetize my infamy. It's still not really paying off the way one would expect, being completely cancelled and smeared in every publication would do for you.
There's big
but-
money in barbershop, I tell you.
Well, yeah, that's so they say. That's why it's so hard to break in, you know. But Helen, someone just asked me. I mean, obviously the football's on later on. We should have a brief mention of that since we put it in the title card. Helen, are you excited about tonight?
I have zero interest in football, but I will be watching it because I think that, as a nation, it's the right thing to do because everyone else will be watching it and you need to be able to talk about it. Like the Olympics, that was good. I thought it was great that people could just watch sport that they had zero information, knowledge or interest in, but still, brought us together as a country. I went to see the wrestling when it was on. It was the only ticket I was able to get. So we watched wrestling.
Right. Okay. Was it good? Was it exciting?
It was very good. And my son, who was quite small then, got lost. So that was also interesting. No, he was fine. We saw him just the other side of the XL Stadium, sort of walking children. So it's it's given us a nice story to talk about the whole of our lives. So yeah.
Oh, there you go. Well, that's something. I was asked who I'm supporting today, and the thing is, well, it's kind of. Did you see? I'm sure everyone saw the map of the world of who everyone was supporting, and Italy was over every single country apart from the UK. Of course, including Ireland and Scotland, and Wales. So it's like I do get that. I get that from the sense that booing national anthems. Unfortunately, the British fans if there was a way for the team to win and the fans who boo national anthems to lose, then that would be my thing, because I think the team looked like nice guys. They seem very nice. So I don't know. Arnie, what are you going to do? Are you going to wave a flag for Turf Island?
We're talking about soccer, right?
Yes. Are you not? It's not really. I know it doesn't kind of carry through over there.
No, it certainly doesn't. So wait, it's Italy versus England? Is that right?
Yeah, in the final.
Wow, that's exciting. I'll be rooting for Turf Island for sure. Yeah.
Good. Okay.
Yeah. Well, the Italians are very nice boys, but
I think I mean, that's the brilliant thing is another thing. I mean, really, that Turf Island thing is really catching on. They fucking hate the fact that the UK don't go along with this nonsense, and it makes me, even as an Irishman, it makes me, I've said this before, but fucking so proud to be a part of Turf Island. I mean, Ireland unfortunately fell to this stuff without kind of realizing it. As always, it was snuck in through the back door. As I love pointing out, self-ID was introduced while everyone thought they were voting for marriage equality, and self-ID just snuck in there somehow without anyone noticing, without any debate. So it's kind of not the Irish fault, and there's a lot of good Irish turfing going on. But but we it has to be said, the UK has been, has led the world.
It's interesting that you say this, because since the wee spa thing happened, I've seen, well, in my feed anyway, I'm getting a load of American sort of progressive lefty men coming along, who have obviously come very late to this party and seem to believe that women in Britain have also come, along as late as they have. And I'm getting accused of all sorts of things, and just so ridiculous that does it bother you at all? This is Mark. There was a chap called Mark and I'm saying his name because it turns out that he does have 23,000 followers, and he's caused quite a pylon on my feed. But I'm okay with that. It doesn't bother me in the least. I think it's quite good to expose these dreadful arguments, actually. But does it bother you at all that you're a comrade in arms with anti-abortionists, etc., etc.? And he's coming. He's like, we just don't have an anti-abortion movement in the UK. It just doesn't. It's not here. Yeah. It's not a thing.
Yeah.
And it's so sort of US centric, and it has absolutely no idea that women have been here fighting this from a point of view of, safety spaces for women and girls, sports, medicalization of children. That's it. We've said so many times, tiny little areas. That's it. That's all.
It's the only argument they have. The only argument they have is guilt by association. And also the thing that, they never take into account is, and this is really I think the best way in response to some of these people, is what they don't realize is this unites everyone from the left to the right. Everyone thinks you're a bunch of fucking lunatics. America gave us Trump, and America gave us gender ideology and Judith Butler. It's an American load of bollocks. And the fact that, the fact that you have left-wing people and right-wing people agreeing on something doesn't mean that the thing in itself is the wrong position. It just means that, it unites people in how stupid and insane it is, and how dangerous.
Well, it unites people in the same way as, most people understand that the Earth is round. I mean,
exactly. The sun
is not a left-right position. You could be on the left, you could be on the right. We both agree the Earth is not flat. Exactly.
Yeah.
But the UK, I'm really proud of the UK because you have trans rights also.
Yeah.
We believe in biological sex. I'm already talking like I'm British. You believe in biological sex, and you believe that people can live in the social role and have job security and job safety. Their beliefs are just as protected as Maya Forstater's beliefs are. And there's no harm being done to trans people. They're very, very safe. Nobody's been killed in the United Kingdom, a country of 70 million people, in years who is transgender. I mean, that's just an astonishing statistic. People talk about how horrible it is to be trans in the UK. It's like, what are you fucking talking about? It's the safest place in the world to be trans. The one caveat is we don't treat you like you've literally transcended the facts of biology. And that it's actually a good thing, is going to help your mental health.
It's interesting, isn't it, that I think possibly one early problem that this debate had, and it might even be a fault you could say was on our side, is that we were kind of talking past each other in the sense that trans rights are nowhere near as progressive as they are in the UK, in America. And I think that when they were arguing for trans rights in America, and we were saying, we were putting up a battle, then I think they thought we were arguing that the status quo in America is the right thing, and it's not. There's definitely some conversation to be had. But don't
worry about it, because I replied to Mark, and I asked him very specifically if he thought that male-born people with a penis, etc., and despite the fact that he was quote tweeting me and replying to me, he seems to have missed that question.
Really?
Seems to have missed it entirely. Yeah, it's really weird. And also, a lot of his friends, his male friends, some of them were blue ticked as well. They were all going on about how stupid these women were. So I asked a number of them. They've all missed it. Maybe they're getting ready for the English football.
Sudden interest in English football.
Incredible. They just can't see these questions. It's just visible to them.
Yeah. It's been another interesting week. I mean, it's so hard to keep up with things. Like yesterday, I did a post on grooming. I can't, there's so much happening that I can't even remember what it was about. I'm going to have to check and remind myself what it was about. It was.
While you're looking at it, can I say Daniel Webb's piece today was lovely, and so was Louise's.
Yes,
lots of lovely. Your stable of fantastic journalists is great.
Well, a lot of them are like Daniel is obviously someone who's very big on the stats and the information. Yeah, but he masses information But a lot of people, like Louise, is just a subscriber, you know. So, but it's funny when you poke people where they live, they tend to write really well, I think, you know, because you know,
it's excellent that you're able to give people a platform. I think that's great, Graham.
Yeah, I don't know. I wish. Yeah, I mean, sometimes I worry that it's not having an effect. But then again, people are sometimes really, really eager to get stuff into the site. So I guess it must be influential in some circles.
It is certainly having an effect, because look, we've been doing this for about a year. What's happened in the past year? The you know, I'm saying obviously it's not all down to this at all, but it's part of it is that, you know, even in the last year, the conversation has moved on even more into the mainstream. Everyone knows what we're talking about now. When you know, if you bring it up, I mean, people are still very wary of, in fact, talking about it. You know, they will still take a step back if you say gender critical, because people actually know what it is now, and they often, a lot of them, don't want to have anything to do with it because they're worried about getting into the conversation because any perceived issues.
Yeah, but I'm still kind of stunned that I've been waiting 5 years now for the cavalry to turn up in the form of other people in the entertainment industry, and their silence is so fucking deafening by now. I'll give you a good example. Sorry,
won't they be last? Because it's such an area where you're exposed, and I mean, you know this, and look at J.K. Rowling's experience. That it can be, you know, retribution it's swift, and it's public, and it is cruel, and people are aware.
Yeah. I don't know. I think that I'll tell you one thing, men. I mean, apart from me, because I was very devoted to it, but men in general do not get anything near the kind of treatment that women get. Like, for instance, this last week, Baroness Nicholson revealed that she's had something like, what is it, 5,000 requests for her to be?
Yeah, 5,500.
5,500 complaints. And Lord Lucas, whose views are completely aligned with Baroness Nicholson's, has not had one. He's not had one, you know? I mean, it's just extraordinary. So if someone, I'll give you a very good example. Let's call someone out because he's someone who really frustrates me about this. Ben Goldacre. Ben Goldacre wrote Bad Science. Why has Ben Goldacre not written about puberty blockers? If Ben Goldacre wrote about puberty blockers, about how safe they were, about what, you know, about all that stuff, then he would be able to help the argument by providing people with, you know, peer-reviewed statistics with a frame in which to examine these statistics. Because, as we know, one of the reasons why there's so little research into this subject is because the scientists get harassed, threatened, and abused, which has a chilling effect. So even if he wrote that, but Ben Goldacre has been silent on this. Why? Well, and the same for all these other, you know, I don't know. I don't want to start naming people, but I do think that he has a responsibility. As someone who wrote Bad Science, he has a responsibility to write about puberty blockers.
Totally.
Same with John Ronson. John Ronson had a responsibility to write about the industrialized abuse that women are receiving at the moment, and he didn't do it. Why?
Why did the trolley experiment? It's like, you have a trolley.
What's that? 10, I don't know that.
You know, the trolley experiment where, like, if you're in control of a train and if you divert it this way, one person gets killed, and if you divert it that way, 10 people get killed. Well, there's Ben Goldacre, who's given agency. You know, he's a man who's in charge. He's like an authoritative spokesperson on scientific principles and what's good medicine and what's bad medicine. And there's 10,000 kids who are going to be harmed if he keeps his mouth shut. But then if he opens his mouth, he's going to feel a little bit stung by a mob of Twitter activists. And he's like, the mob of Twitter activists is he's avoiding them, even though that means the train is going to collide into 10,000 kids, you know, that kind of thing. It's like it's a psychological experiment in agency and responsibility and ethics, and how people don't do the math properly.
Even more so for the trolley problem there, because it's him. He's not even saying like one person and that person, but when that person is you, I mean, this people obviously have a vested interest in keeping quiet, but this is the point, isn't it? We've said it so many times. This is the point of the absolute fury with which people go after individuals, because it's in order to prevent. When people do it, they have to do it in collusion with everyone else. Everyone has to get together and say, "I'm publishing this weekend." But up until now, it has who's written the books? Like women. Kathleen Stock. Helen Joyce's book is coming out. It's women, isn't it? They're the ones that are having to do this, because there's a whole load of men there who are frightened. They're frightened.
What's this about? Who's this person? Hey Graham, stop silencing trans women. I thought you were supposed to be for debate, but you run away.
Silencing trans women. He's not even on Twitter. How's he silencing trans women?
Yeah, who am I running away from debate from? We would love to have someone on who could answer Helen's question, or explain to us why the women and children in the wee spa should be subjected to flashers. Please get us. Get
We've
on.
had many trans men and
although
trans
we're not going to promote anyone who's like just got a YouTube channel and insults people. We'll speak to like for instance Owen Jones. I'd love to talk to Owen Jones about this. I don't think he would last. I think he'd take off his microphone.
Owen Jones would. Well, we know Owen Jones has form in storming away.
Laurie Penny might actually talk to us. You never know, But
I doubt it.
Well,
she couldn't answer. She like we said, didn't we? She didn't answer the question. She honestly said, "I can't answer that question," because of the backlash that I'd get. She couldn't do it.
But even if she said that would be a brave thing to say on camera, and perhaps show other people what kind of a bind some feminists are in.
Ask her. Let's ask her.
Yeah, maybe. Yeah, we'll see. Yeah, but
the wee spa thing is interesting, isn't it? Because all this week it seems to. Because I think we spoke on Wednesday. I think it happened last weekend, didn't it? And on Wednesday, there was a protest last weekend, and on Wednesday we talked about the protests and how that woman was, that lone woman, the woman in pink, was surrounded and pushed, and it was dreadful. But we haven't talked about what's happened since, which is now it's the idea that it was all a setup by the right wing. Have you seen that? And in fact, I think Owen Jones retweeted it. A number of really sort of prominent people are retweeting this idea that it was actually a right-wing setup. There's no evidence. Nobody saw it. Why didn't she film it? Why did this woman not film a person with his penis out and put it all over the internet? Why?
Even the trans person who's kind of a bit of trollish in our comments is like, even if they existed, like still speculating that they maybe don't exist. Like, this is totally Comet ping pong. This is just like, Pizzagate or whatever it is. Like, you're crazy.
But I'm writing something about this at the moment. I'm writing something about along the lines of this is the age of Trump, in the sense. I mean, the way that the people would talk about the age of Napoleon. This will be seen, I think, as the age of Trump, because all the lessons of the Trump years have been learned, but not by the right, by the left. The left are using the same kind of lessons. They're refusing to answer questions. They're lying. They're attacking the person who is confronting them with personal insults. These are all Trump tactics, and the left has absorbed Trump tactics better than any group on earth. It's in fact, and the thing is, we can see that the Trump tactics eventually don't work. He didn't get a second term. He ran out of road, and the other thing about Trump is that he went through this period. I'm sorry, I'm bringing this back to the wee spa, but he went through this period. I actually got tired of watching it because it was so exhausting, where he literally forgot which lie was the one he last settled on. So he would lie about something that just the like 10 minutes before. I think he did it in one interview that he said something and then said the opposite. So he couldn't keep his story straight because he was lying so much. That's what the wee spa is like, because you go from, oh, it didn't matter, to it didn't happen, and then it did happen, but it didn't matter that it happened.
It's the I didn't shoot him, officer, but he had it coming.
Exactly.
It's that, isn't it?
Exactly. The food was terrible,
it didn't
but
happen,
such big
but even
portions.
if it did happen, it's absolutely fine. I mean, again, there's just no moral integrity or honesty or care. It's such a problem because it's such a short-sighted. Just bringing it back to the whole Trump idea, it's such a short-sighted thing to do, isn't it? If it's expedient for your argument to do this, because once you've used it, it's free reign for everyone else to use it, and it will just continue to be that way. And I do think the left are really. It's a massive problem now, because again, it's all sort of fake news and let's just lie.
The left are normalizing a tactic that once was only used by Trump and his supporters. That's what's really frightening. And it'll come to the time then when the right start doing it again. They'll do it in a smarter way. They will see the lessons they learned from Trump. They'll look at the way the left has been able to create a completely fake reality for themselves, and they'll do the same thing. It's so frightening as well, because all of this stuff is built on a very rickety platform. I think I said it in my House of Lords thing. A world where I can't remember what I said, but a world where the definition of woman, is being debated is a world on the brink of chaos. We simply, if you cannot say what's real or not, then the door is open for every single shyster, every single Trumpkin to kind of come through the door, and that's exactly what's happening with the left at the moment. And it's so short-sighted as well, because it has no traction outside of these little groups like Ash Sakar and Owen Jones and all these. They can keep each other warm with their farts for as long as they want, but outside of their little fart circle, no one is buying it. And everyone, I think, is getting increasingly angry, because they know they're not being heard, and they know that this they're being called bigots for simply stating what everyone believes. Sorry, I'm talking a bit too much today.
No, it's okay. It's okay. Oh, I can make you laugh. Brian opposite said to me in the week, he said, Helen, he said, because we live in a terrace, big sort of long row of terraces. He said, I don't mean to pry, he said, but have you got a new job as an academic? He said, you were wearing a mortarboard the other day.
What, he saw you through the window?
Yeah.
Oh, that's great. Oh, sorry, talking again, but I've got a nice little story. I had a wonderful, I can't say much about it because I don't want to get her into trouble, but I had a wonderful chat with the Scottish witches last night, Marion Miller and her gang. And
oh, how lovely.
Yeah, it was really, really nice. And, we were all a bit cheats to the wind, and it was just lovely. But she was saying that Lisa Keogh met them, and she said she was so chuffed with her graduation. So I was delighted to hear that.
Really, that's nice.
Yeah. So that was good, because I was a bit worried, maybe, because I thought we rattled through the actual graduation part, but I think she was really moved by it. So I'm glad about that.
Did you see? I saw this last night on Twitter. You might not have if you were getting pissed with some women.
Yeah.
A midwife called Millie Hill. She, I think somebody she'd written about her experiences. I don't know if you've seen it, Artie, but terrible experience of bullying, silencing, picked on, vilified. And she's written a very eloquent essay yesterday about the experiences she's had, because she was talking about her thing was violence, and she said it, and it's but it's very key. This is happening to women, obstetric violence. It only happens to women, and genuinely, she's being bullied and picked on and vilified because of this position. And it is quite incredible. But she wrote this yesterday. She's had tons and tons of support. So I do think that people are waking up. The sort of the outpouring of support that she's had just in one day is incredible. And honestly, this couldn't have happened years ago, I don't think.
Yeah, it's really good. It's really good. It's her piece is stunning as well, you know, and it's, you know, it's like looking
But
in a
it's
mirror.
so scary. It's so frightening.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just appalling. This is just a woman talking about like a fundamental aspect of women's being, which is giving birth, and she's being vilified for saying that this is something that happens to women.
Here's the thing.
Here?
Have you ever seen a single trans man complain about the use of the word woman? You know, I don't think it's a thing at all. I think it's just, you know, I'll tell you, here's a piece of good news, because it's connected. But, you know, Robin DiAngelo, her second book is out. And I believe that the sales were something like the opening week sales were something like 3,000. When her first book got something like, I don't know, 30,000 or something like that. I'm just making up the number, but it was big. So I think people are beginning to kind of cotton on to the fact that a lot of these people are just white, privileged snake oil salesmen, you know? And the people who say that you can't use the word mother and you have to use the word birthing person and stuff. Similarly, these are just privileged, white, you know, often men who just, you know, are speaking for a group of people who don't want to be spoken for. I'll give you, my last example on this is the hilarious sight of Biden calling people Latinx, you know. Latinas do not like that phrase. They don't want it, you know, but it's being imposed on them by white people, you know.
I've seen that too. Yes, I've seen this complaint, but yet it seems to be steamrolling on. Actually, it doesn't seem to matter if the people being called it don't want to be called it.
We have to remove this person from the comments. He is just shitting all over everyone.
All right. Okay.
He's got to go. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Agreed.
Sorry, where were we? What were we talking about there? My brain's just gone totally blank.
The Latinx.
Oh yeah. But then to see Biden doing it, and the brilliant thing about Biden is apparently one of Biden's catchphrases is, "I'm going to get in trouble." He's always saying this. Oh, I can't do that because I'm going to get in trouble, right? And the fucking image of a complete near death puppet man who's got like a million hands up his arse, telling him to do all these different things is so clear to me now, you know, like him giving the foreword to Charlotte Clymer's book. I mean, like a little bit of research into Clymer would have told you everything. So he's obviously like his team should have protected him from that, but the team are obviously telling him to do it. You know?
Oh my God, they're just so deranged. They think this is just gay rights 2.0, and they really do. And they're just cynical about it. There's just like gay rights has been so corporatized, and it's just such an easy, you know, it's a powerful brand. You never, everybody has to get behind this brand. It's just pure American capitalistic ideas. That it's not about principles and good and bad. It's about positive branding, you know.
Yeah. Yeah, well, Deliveroo just did it. They literally created an alphabet soup or something, not realizing.
They literally call it alphabet soup.
Yeah, they really didn't realize that's actually not a good thing. And they McBride's book. Really, Cara? I thought it was Clymer. Oh, excuse me.
No, I thought it was Clymer's too. I could have sworn it was Clymer's.
Wow. Okay. Well, we'll have to look into that.
Yeah.
I'm sure you know better than us, Cara. But
it could be both.
Maybe he's just doing every single. His next one will be for Tory Peters' novel or something.
Chase Strangio.
What were we talking about before that? Chase Strangio. A lunatic.
I don't know, but I could quote a lovely tweet from Oliver Berkman just now, if anyone's interested.
Yeah, go on.
There's something about a furry rainbow monkey with a huge dildo on an exposed anus dancing in front of children that doesn't seem quite right to me.
Some people probably don't realize that this is actually true. Like, this is something that's happened. There was this library that organized.
Did you not see it, Artie?
No.
This
Have you not seen it?
I don't know if I want to.
This is true.
It's so funny. It's so funny. In fact, that brings me on to another thing I posted about other night that's causing a bit of discussion that I think I'd love to get your opinion on, Artie.
Wait, but I just want to finish telling Artie about the rainbow monkey dildo person.
Rainbow monkey dildo. This
is true. Great. It turns out that some library, Redbridge, I'm not quite sure where that is, somewhere in England, as part of a reading project for libraries this summer. And there's a picture of a chap, and he is in a sort of rainbow monkey suit, and he has got a huge dildo that waves about as he jumps up and down.
Oh my goodness!
It has been.
I'm going to show it to you. I'm going to show it to you.
People complained. Yes, show it because it is beyond belief.
Yeah,
it sounds
hold on
insane.
1 second. Oh yeah, here we go. Okay, this is it. This is for kids.
God.
There's an even better one though.
There's a video where he's jumping up and down and he's just wiggling about like this.
Oh my God.
But this is real. This is real. Like I can understand why you would laugh about it, because of course it's a nice parody, but it is true. Even people in our, people that who are very familiar with what this was happening in a DM group earlier were saying, yeah, but did that actually happen? Was that real? Yes, it was. Even we couldn't believe it was real.
No.
Yeah.
There's something about how we live in a world full of pervs, We live in a world of perverts, of people with weird sexual kinks and fetishes. That's just the world we live in. It's all under the surface, but it's there. Men have crazy, bizarre sexual appetites. We cannot pretend that isn't real. So if you open the door to let these people do these things in public, they are going to do them. You can't have things like self-ID and just pretend that no one's going to take advantage of self-ID when we know that we live in a world full of people with bizarre sexual behaviors. And we live in a world full of men who commit crimes. We have the entire court system, the entire police force, the entire prison network. This is all because a large number of men behave very, very badly all the time.
Yeah.
Billions and billions of pounds is spent every year to keep these men under control. There's entire buildings, entire networks of stuff just because men behave badly all the fucking time. You can't have things like self-ID where you just pretend that it never happens.
Well, let me use that to talk about another bit of weirdness that happened yesterday. You may have seen I posted about it. There was a male choir who did a song called something like "We're Coming for Your Children."
We're coming for your children, yeah.
Yeah, and I believe it was tongue in cheek, but apparently, a number of men on the choir turned out to be sex offenders.
Yeah, at least two of the board members are convicted pedophiles.
Really? They're convicted pedophiles. All right. Well, I was getting a bit worried because I thought maybe I'm overreacting. Maybe this is just a parody of that kind of mindset. But if that's the case, then fucking hell. I mean, this is just insane.
But even so, I'm really fed up. I'm bored stiff of this idea that, the pearl clutching. Won't somebody think of the children? Yes, women do need to think about the children. We have to, because we know what men do. We know this as a society. Right. This is why we have to think of the fucking children. Yeah. Somebody has to.
When The Simpsons wrote that line, "Won't somebody think of the children?" they were talking about the right-wingers who were doing things like banning To Kill a Mockingbird.
Yeah. It was Anita Bryant who created
Now the left-wingers are doing it. The left-wingers are banning To Kill a Mockingbird. And not only that, but they're fucking waving their monkey dicks in front of kids,
That's insane. Yeah. Yeah. Won't somebody think of the children was Anita Bryant's famous line, I think, wasn't it? The homophobic Christian conservative.
Right.
Who was defending the man who murdered Harvey Milk because, you're allowed to murder gays because they're gay, was the idea.
Controversial position.
Not at the time. It was a mainstream position at the time. But anyway, that choir really pissed me off because they were sneering at the very idea that children needed to be protected, that there might be, that fetishistic people might be predating on children, and among them was a bunch of fucking predators.
Yeah.
But
And
who
what was
best?
it?
But who best to try and hide that with a parody? I mean, obviously, right? We see it all the time. This is the point about the idea of red flags. Men who are advocating for spaces to be open to any blokes with a cock. We do have to worry about them. We know we have to worry about them because it's been proven again and again and again that many men like this can be a problem. There was an excellent thread. I'm just going to say it was Fem Loves, and we leave it at that. An excellent thread about why telling girls to avert your eyes when they see people with penises in the changing room is so wrong. Thread about red flags, and it's an incredibly moving, upsetting, but incredibly important thread about abuse and grooming and how it works. And I see it's had a huge amount of likes and tweets, which is excellent. You know, it's really struck a chord with people. It is obviously so true, and it's brilliant. So everyone should read that. I'm absolutely certain that everyone has. But it is
links.
But it's you know, it is so important. We know this. Like, honestly, we've just known forever as a society, which is why we already do have safeguarding of children. You know, we have DBS checks. We know this. And anyone now who is coming along and trying to say, we don't need this anymore, are obviously people that we need to be suspicious of. Obviously.
Yes. And we don't need this for trans rights. You know, we need to sort of model an alternative kind of trans rights. You know, I want to highlight more of the voices of rational trans people to say this is, you know, transgenderism isn't going away. It's going to exist forever. There is a rational, positive way of having it part of our society. People like Debbie Hayton, people like Aaron Terrell, you know, wonderful, wonderful people who are rational about their condition. Mars, another one. We need to model that.
That's why I really think that it's self-defeating to you know, launch attacks on these trans people who are on the side of rationality, and they're you know, as you say, it is going to be here forever. You know, I mean, there's no, but it can be done. Like people like Fionn and Debbie, they show that, you know, you don't have to live a lie. You don't have to force a lie on other people. You don't have to, you know, you don't have to, you know, you can be engaged in a discussion like Fiona and Miranda did the third spaces suggestion, you know, which, you know, which like, what's wrong with that?
It's such an obvious suggestion, isn't it? It's such an obvious suggestion, and the fact that people refuse to take it up is obviously the problem. It is the central problem. The central problem is that people don't want a compromise. They don't want this. They
AGPs
want domination. They want, well, it's domination, isn't it? It's domination. They want domination. Exerting this power is part of it. It's part of it, isn't it? The idea that they can exert power over women and say, no, we are coming in. We will be there. It's part of it. It's part of the problem.
There's so much mental health problems with the AGPs, especially. You know, they just cannot face reality. They have this seething resentment of women a lot of the time. Not all AGPs, of course, like we're saying. But there's just so many problems. You cannot, if you have, we have to reframe it back to what it is, which is a mental health condition with a treatment, which is trans, you know? It's a rare condition. It's a severe step to take to live, you know, to identify as transgender. But that's all it is. It's not real, you know? You can't just rip reality apart. Like, they're just trying to gain access to something, this fantasy that isn't real. And they should never have been, there should have been gatekeeping. If you're a disturbed man who can't come to terms with the fact that you're not truly female, you shouldn't have been allowed to transition. You should have been told to get therapy, you know?
Well, it's very interesting, isn't it, that one of the taboo things that you're told is taboo is that you can't call it a mental illness, you know?
Right.
So
well, because call it a condition, you know, there's lots of euphemisms.
Right. But do you know what I mean? You can't say that it's a problem with your mind. You know, you can't say that, because that's For some reason, that's not allowed. But then again, of
we
course,
can't even say woman.
Yeah.
Of course, we can't say anything else. Jesus.
But my point is, and I believe there was a news story. I hope it was some sort of exaggeration, but there was a news story about Amazon saying that they wouldn't stock any books that talked about gender dysphoria. You know, because gender dysphoria is not what's happening. It's actually that these people are really the opposite sex or some shit like that.
Right. They have some spiritual essence of womanhood or whatever. It's like, no, you don't.
yeah, exactly. So what, you know, but you'll notice then that when they want to gaslight you a different way, they'll suddenly start talking about the mental trauma that all these people are going through, and you know what I mean, and they'll commit suicide and all this sort of stuff. It's the most outrageous.
It's like these things are the cognitive dissonance.
Goalpost shifting. Yeah.
But also so much of that to people talking out of both sides of their mouths. But one thing I want to talk about with trans is like, I kind of, in the 90s, when I was first exposed to trans, I kind of secretly thought this is something that will eventually go away because we will have no need for it. As gay rights advances and as we open up gender roles and gender norms, there would be no need. Back in the 1950s, you know, when you had women who had to dress like this and act like this and be housewives, and men had to dress like this and act like this and, you know, be office workers and wear suits and hats and ties, then it made sense. If you were a very masculine woman and a very feminine man, you couldn't just wear the clothes of the opposite sex and be comfortable having a, you know, a personality that was atypical of your biological sex. You had to adopt the role because there were strict roles, right? There was a man role and a woman role. And if you were a feminine man, you really had to adopt the woman role and take on feminine pronouns, and vice versa if you were a butch lesbian. But even then, they didn't do that. They still held firm to their biological sex. Butch lesbians were lesbians, not trans men, you know?
Yeah. And proudly so.
Proudly so. Yeah, exactly. I always thought, you know, these feminine gays who took on the roles of women, I thought eventually we won't need to do that anymore because eventually there will be enough equality, enough egalitarianism between homosexuality and heterosexuality and gender nonconformity that men can wear dresses all they want, you know, and why would they have any need to pretend to be women when they can just be perfectly comfortable with fabulous hair and nail polish and do whatever they want to do to make themselves feel comfortable, and we don't have to make any pretensies out of it because we've gotten rid of all the gender roles, right?
Pretensies.
This is what I thought was coming, right? And I thought, but we're not there yet, so we can sympathize with people who have to, you know, pretend that they're the opposite sex. And it's like, that's what I thought was happening. But that's not what happened, because we have gotten rid of most of the, you know, David Bowie and Prince and some of the most gender nonconforming people, Annie Lennox, are the most celebrated people in popular culture. These are beloved, beloved people. We've really advanced a lot. Men can wear dresses. Women can wear suits. Nobody cares anymore. Why is this still happening? This has nothing to do with gender. That's the secret, right? That it's not really about gender. It's about something else. And often, of course, it's about sexual paraphilia. You know,
sometimes I was thinking,
but we have gone backwards in a way because commercialization has taken us backwards. You know, like back in the 70s. I mean, you've seen that Lego advert. You must have, where you've got a girl who dressed very similar to me back in the 70s. You know, with just jeans and a jumper, and you're sort of building stuff out of Lego that's red and blue and yellow. And now you've got Lego that's pink, and you've got Lego that's blue. and it's really gendered, and the clothes are much more gendered, and so
even the trans
we have
flag
gone backwards that way. Oh, the fucking trans flag is so ridiculous.
The fucking trans flag
is
pink and blue with white in the middle.
The baby powder blue and stuff it's a bit creepy, isn't it? That
it really is.
I know.
It's the thing. Although
it's very unpleasant.
Although one of the funniest things, actually, I might share screen just to show you this. It's one of my favorite little things that it comes up every so often, and every time it comes up, it really does cheer me up. Hold on a sec. I just got to make sure my.
Close everything else. Close every other tab, Graham.
I can't. Oh right. I can't show this on its own, you know, unfortunately, because it'll give away my sock account. But
someone mentioned Grace Jones in the comments. I love Grace Jones so much.
Yeah.
Jones, absolutely.
Well, here's my theory, right?
Amazing.
Grace Jones is the only exception, but here's my theory. I think all these people were waiting for Prince and Bowie to die before they started talking shite about gender roles. I think that, you know, if Bowie was around now or Prince was around, the sheer ridiculousness and absurdity of their arguments would, because Prince was the most extraordinary feminine man, and yet he was incredibly like raunchily sexual as well at the same time.
Oh my God. Can I tell you my Prince theory? I was saving this for the next time Jane Claire Jones comes on, but
okay.
I have a theory. It's maybe a little controversial to Jane. I'm very sorry, Jane. I think Prince was a textbook autogynephile, quite frankly. And I think he's a model. Yeah. And I think he's a model of how autogynephilia can be handled beautifully and in support of women instead of in hostility to women. Prince adored women. He identified with women all the time, far more than men, but he was profoundly sexually attracted to women. Yeah. And all he ever sang about was he was always putting himself in the position of the woman sexually, you know?
Okay.
Remember he did that song, If I Was Your Girlfriend? And he'd be like, we would, you know, we would all the things we would do together if we were girlfriends. And, you know, he was always imagining himself as a woman and wearing fabulous women's clothes and really getting in touch with his feminine side and always questioning, you know, but I'm not gay. What's going on? You know, he just seems like a model autogynephile. And look what he did. He held women up. He supported women in the music industry all the time. Not perfect by any means, but he wrote songs for women. He launched so many women's careers. This is somebody who identified with women.
No, that was Sheena E. Who was the one from England that he turned into a star?
It might have been Sheena Easton.
I think it was Sheena Easton. Yeah. I remember Sheena Easton was just very demure, you know, like kind of poppy singer, and then she walked on stage with Prince, and it was like the end of Grease. It was amazing.
So many women's careers, the Bangles, Sinead O'Connor, you know, like just and Apollonia and Vanity 6 and, you know, just endless, you know, this was somebody who I think had autogynephilia, who had a deep sexual
his
sense
court
of, you know,
was full of women. He was like really, and he always had women in kind of like what one would often associate with masculine roles in the band, like a guitarist was a woman, the drummer was a woman. You know,
and like the best guitarists and drummers ever. Yes. Oh my God, have you ever seen Prince live? Holy shit!
Yes.
Just
the only thing I can contribute to this conversation is that I once saw Prince live in the Birmingham. What was it? NEC. Yeah.
Wow. Well, that's a big contribution. You actually saw him for real. That's amazing.
I did. Yes.
There's a very sorry. What was he good?
Yeah, he was excellent. He was excellent. He was Prince, man.
Yeah. Although there's a terrible thing online. I hate that it's one of the few things surviving of when he did some sort of. I think it was very early in his career, and James Brown brought him on, and he walked around with this guitar, but the guitar wasn't fucking working, and he was trying to get something out of it. It wasn't really happening, so it was really just Prince marching around for 10 minutes.
That's also good. I mean, honestly, that's
I suppose so. I'd rather have Prince marching around a bit than many.
I mean, Jesus, we sit here for an hour just talking. I think Prince marching around on stage for 10 minutes also.
Oh my God. Prince live is life-changing. Like, oh my God. And his shows would go on for hours and hours and hours. The man just loved to perform. Wow.
Yeah. He had that thing though, didn't he? I mean, sorry, we're kind of moving off the matter at hand, but he had that.
Prince is always the matter at hand. We should talk about Prince always.
he had that thing, didn't he, of just kind of releasing too many things. I think, you know, if he pulled back a little bit in later years, you might have had maybe 3 or 4 more classic albums, but instead we have 25 ones that no one's really heard.
Yeah.
It's a shame. Prince wasn't immune from Napoleon complex, someone says.
Oh, yeah. He had a massive ego. There were a lot of problems with Prince, and he wasn't perfect with women either, but he certainly adored them, and he certainly tried to.
There was no big scandals, was there? He never kind of.
I don't know. I think there's some rumors.
Oh, really?
He's certainly a narcissist. He was a big narcissist who was the king of his, you know, he was a Napoleon. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, if you're that rich and you have literally a court, did you see, like, everyone, if they haven't seen it, you got to see the brilliant Charlie Murphy story about when Charlie Murphy and Eddie Murphy met Prince and played basketball with them, and they played in full costume. They were all like the frills and stuff, and apparently Prince was just incredible basketball player.
Wow.
Yeah. Listen, we should get back onto Jen. Anything else happened this week that we forgot to cover on Wednesday? I feel like there was something big that we haven't really been speaking about. Oh no, I know. There's one thing I just really want to say. Everyone needs to check out the brilliant piece in the Telegraph about thoughtful therapists. it's absolutely fascinating. We interviewed them before. Actually, it might have been just me. But here we go. Government vows to uphold free speech in transgender treatment debate. And basically, what's happened is thoughtful therapists have gone in and they've made the very important point that what is being currently called conversion therapy is actually, well, it's the language around it is so confused that it's hard to describe what's going on. But basically, what's being called trans treatment is actually gay conversion therapy. There's so many times that I bring this up, and it's hard to talk about because it's so deliberately confused. By comparing the trans issue to the gay issue, they're able to call conversion therapy, even though they both cancel each other out.
Yeah, they're calling pro-conversion therapy anti-conversion therapy. It's this horrifying switcheroo.
Exactly. Yeah. But there's a really interesting thing here. It says here, the current 2017 document, which included gender identity and definition of conversion therapy for the first time, was written with support of the controversial LGBT charity Stonewall. I love seeing the word controversial in there. The guidelines have widely been interpreted as proposing an affirmative approach and have led to psychologists saying that they avoid questioning children as young as 6 who come to them claiming they wanted to transition. Now, this is the interesting part. The thoughtful therapists have attempted to contact the signatories, including the NHS, the Royal College of GPs, and the UK Council for Psychotherapy, asking to discuss the guidelines as they govern their work with a vulnerable group of young people with many unknowns and an extremely poor evidence base for significant medical interventions. But they have not received a response from any of the members after and this is my favorite part, Dr. Iggy Moon, chairman of the memorandum and the lead on the document for the British Psychological Society, asked her colleagues to not respond to the email change. And Dr. Iggy Moon is a they-them person, be happy to know. But they literally have done things like blocked their Gmail address, Thoughtful Therapist's Gmail address,
Oh my goodness.
Yeah, it's extraordinary. And then, last thing I'll say on this. At the end, Thoughtful Therapist said, "We are particularly concerned with the lack of transparency by the coalition governing the document and its chairman, Dr. Iggy Moon, who on numerous occasions has refused to engage with our professional concerns regarding treatment for gender dysphoria and has instructed signatory organisations not to speak to us. For such an important clinical issue, this stonewalling is shocking." And the very next line is, "Dr. Moon and the British Psychological Society failed to respond to a request for comment." Just once again, there is no accountability. They simply just pretend the question hasn't been asked.
That's right.
Of its own accord. It's extraordinary.
I've said this so many times. I want to get these people into a witness box where they have to be forced to answer questions, and they will crumple within a minute, Yeah.
But luckily, there's so many things going on in the courts at the moment that all these things are going to be tested. I'm really hoping next week that Marion Miller's case exposes the bottom-feeding scumbag misogynist trolls who bully women online. I'm hoping it blows back in their faces,
Oh yes, I wanted to mention that chap. I'm not sure that I did the other day.
The Scottish actor,
the man at bus stop.
Man at bus stop, yes.
Because he tweeted about me. I may have mentioned it, but I'm going to mention it now because it still astonishes me now that he tweeted something along the lines of, there's something really sort of odd about this obsession with not seeing penises, and I think we should call it sort of Stanylanditis. And it's such a, women who don't want to see a penis in their changing room or when they haven't agreed to it, are mentally ill. And it was such a shocking thing for him to say. I think it just really does show that the sort of extraordinary mindset that people sort of come along to this issue with, that women are just absolutely no empathy of how women live their lives.
Yeah.
There's no idea, I think, of the sort of basically the way women live their lives. You go back to that list of things that women do to keep themselves safe compared to the list of things that men do, and the man's list is completely empty. and the woman's list is extremely long.
Yeah, she's like, hold your keys like this when you're in a parking garage and all this stuff, you know.
You know, always make sure you're with somebody else, or blah, you know, got your phone, etc., etc., etc. And it just struck me as such an extraordinary, entitled thing to do, to say, rather than saying, okay, yeah, we've, like, this fight is just, I can't see how this fight can be over until there's an acknowledgement that women have a point here, that there is a problem. And again, like I was saying to Laurie Penny, there is a conflict, and it's a small conflict, but it's there, and that needs to be sorted. And after that, everything else doesn't matter. People can just go on about their business. That's it. That's all.
I mean, all these people have hitched themselves on a bad kind of trans rights, where they believe that it's about literally taking away all of women's spaces. They went from only a trans woman can go into a men's space to who cares if there's penises in women's spaces, you know? They always do this. They go that one little tiptoe into letting a couple men in, and then they don't know how to separate the trans women from all the other men. So then suddenly they just say, well, who the fuck cares if any man does, you know, like they
and in fact, why are little girls even looking? The little girls have the problems. I mean, that's how, and it has gone there. It has actually gone there.
I guarantee you that man at bus stop commented on the Sarah Everard. I'm sorry, I forget how to say her name. The woman who was killed by the police.
Everard,
Everard. Excuse me. I guarantee you that he had a comment on that. You know, probably.
And that was a man who has indecent exposure.
Well, exactly, and that's the thing. Like people who, the flashers, not all of them, but some of them go on to do worse things. You know,
absolutely.
So the president of like it happened to my wife in our local park. You know, it's not a small matter if you're a woman on her own. It's not a small matter at all. And these people are engaged in, I don't know, something that I think is uniquely evil. You know, just to save face, just because they have invested so much time and energy in a complete losing hand, they are now arguing that women and children need to be less safe for a better world.
But this is just it. This is like, we're talking about a good, we can't frame this as trans is bad versus trans is good. Like I said, trans is not going away. And I want to make it clear, all the rad femmes and the activists, trans is never going to vanish off the face of the earth. Don't even bother trying to fight that. It's not going to happen. We have to make sure there are boundaries for women, boundaries for children. We have to make sure that, you know, minors aren't medicalized unnecessarily. But trans is not going away. So this is a fight between good, rational trans and bad trans activism. And I'm really happy that I'm not happy that the WeSpa thing happened. But I mean, like, it's a great example of people realizing that this is about a bad kind of trans activism versus a good kind of trans activism. Because everybody now has an image of an obvious man, obviously exposing himself in front of women and children, who is a man who's claiming to be trans with bad intentions. And now they have an image in their head, so that when we're arguing, look at all the problems with trans, they're not picturing, you know, some very well-passing feminine gay person in women's clothes, like a Blair White type person. They're finally picturing what we're trying to say is happening, which is blokes, you know.
Man,
I actually saw somebody say that, Archie. I saw somebody quote you saying, you know, people are thinking that it's Blair White, but it is actually Karen White.
Somebody said that in our comments last week, and I saw it on the rewatch, and it's like the winning comment of the
but you know, there is one thing. Someone said this in the comments, and I really want to concur with it. I think that it's very important that, even though we talk about the fact that trans people will always be here, and you know, their rights are just as important as everyone else's. On these matters that they're pushing at the moment, it is so important that women not give a single inch. Do not give an inch to these demands, because it is really a foot and door type situation. You know, like one of the things I've noticed is people on our side starting to use the word cis. For me, that's waving a white flag. You know, and in fact, I now call those women the cis women, because they're the only women I know who use that term. You know, only feminists I know who use that term. So I think I agree. Somebody's just said in the comment, Blair White is still a man too. It is an interesting point, isn't it? I mean, it is, in terms of
picturing, it's a good metaphor. But again, it is the foot in the door idea also. I think it's a point worth making.
But the people in the comments were saying, Blair White's still a man. No one's saying Blair White isn't a man. But we're saying that Blair White has gender dysphoria, and we can, in the right circumstances, be courteous. Exactly. If we choose to. But it should never be mandated by law.
The problem is the courtesy is being demanded of us, and when anyone demands anything of you,
yes.
Especially when it comes wrapped with all these other problems, including women's sports and private spaces, then you can't even be courteous. You can't even be courteous, not until that threat is gone. When the threat is gone, we can review the situation, and I'll start using preferred pronouns all over the place. But at the moment, I think it's a flag of surrender to do so, and we shouldn't do it. We shouldn't do it.
Well, I think you have to be careful. I think there's lots of different ways of seeing it, because I think for some people, the pronouns are the thing that puts so many people off of the gender critical movement. The lack of, people see someone like Blair White. You could say Blair White is a man, but it's just going to alienate people who see a gay person in distress. And you're unnecessarily hurting a gay person in distress.
But Artie,
of course,
I want to be clear.
Of that is that women are being harmed, and that's more important. But people aren't seeing that. So it's a matter. I'm talking about its tactics. I'm not saying I agree with one side or the other.
No. But Artie, that's not what I'm saying. I mean, the thing is, I wouldn't. I don't think I've seen. I very rarely see even gender critical or radfems doing the "you're a man" thing.
There's like 10 of them in our comments right now. But
oh, really?
Yeah.
But sometimes, a lot of women are angry.
Of course, I agree.
They've got the right.
There's nothing wrong with saying it. It's a fact.
And this is an interesting point. This who we spar thing. I'm looking at it in terms of, I'm saying, what did you think was going to happen in terms of that woman being surrounded? If you've spent the last sort of few years calling women bigots and fascists and right-wing Christian evangelists who are awful and bigoted and horrible, what did you think was going to happen? And you've got the other side saying, oh, look, what did you think was going to happen? Because you've spent all of this time telling people that the trans women are predators who want to get into women's changing rooms. And it seems as if the fight has got more and more and more polarized.
Yeah.
And I genuinely can't see what anyone can do about it. I think it just has to play out.
I think
because this is
my thing.
It's got to be.
There's lots of allies on our side, like Debbie Hayden and Miranda and stuff like that. Although Miranda's a special case because Miranda uses he, him, which confuses everybody.
I think Debbie's like getting there. I feel like Debbie's about 1 inch away from being the same.
Oh yeah, well, but my point is like I would be careful about using female pronouns with anyone in the presence of women at the moment, because I can understand that they're very angry and they're justifiably angry at what's being done. In a private one-on-one situation, it might be different, but when there's an audience, I think you have to be sensitive to the feelings of women,
Absolutely. The question isn't about like whether I'm not saying one way is good and one way is bad. We're not saying that. We're saying there are different ways that are, it's not, if you want to call someone and not use their pronouns, that's great. But other people who are trying to be diplomatic, who will respect someone's pronouns, will in turn get attacked for doing that. And that's where it gets like a problem. Because even if someone's trying to reach an olive branch out to bring other people into the gender critical movement, they get pulled away. Like you're not even allowed, It's that kind of thing where it's getting a little, there's no room to bring people in sometimes because it's so polarized.
I'm not sure that's true. I genuinely think that most people can understand that people are just different, and there's room for all sorts of people with all sorts of different opinions. There's, it's this idea of a movement being sort of one thing. It isn't true, is it? Like there are right-wing people who also disagree with transgenderism, disagree with male people in female spaces. And they might disagree with it for the same reasons as me, because they think it's wrong, or they might disagree with it because they think, well, they're our women and we need to protect them in a patriarchal way. But that's just how it is. They can think what they like because they're individual people, and I can think what I like, and other people are free to do what they feel is right. I mean, I genuinely, it's not.
It's a hard line to walk because one of the things. I mean, look at us. We're having a conversation here in front of a couple of hundred people. Everything is public and everything is political.
Yeah.
But I think in the very short term, because I think it's at its in ways it's at its worst now. I just think we have to hold the line and not give an inch. And especially the one thing, preferred pronouns is one thing, but for fuck's sake, don't let anyone away with using the word cis. Cis is a fucking vile word. Hey, listen, I got to tell you a funny story before we go. Right, Pink News called me for a quote on the latest hit piece, and I usually never give them a quote.
Was your quote "fuck off"?
Yeah, it's usually along those lines. But this time I said I'll publish it on the site. I said something like, I did it to draw the attention of men in lesbian spaces, something in which Pink News is complicit. What did I say in the end? And that's why everyone should join the LGB Alliance. They didn't publish the quote, and also I told them, please use my preferred pronouns throughout the piece, which are she, her, and they didn't use them. So Pink News didn't use my preferred pronouns.
That is actually quite funny.
Isn't that interesting?
Yeah, I know.
I wonder if people are watching this, if they could please complain to Pink News about not using my preferred pronouns for their piece.
That's great. That's brilliant.
I'll be right on that. I'll be right on that.
Good. With your new powerful position on Twitter. This was a joy as always. So thank you so much for joining. What time is the football on?
8. It's 8 p.m. I think.
Well, listen, Helen. In honor. Oh no! Wait! You're Welsh. It's fine. I don't have to say. I
am Welsh, but
you'll be supporting.
I've lived in England for 30 years, and if Wales aren't playing, then I support England.
Okay. Well, listen, I would like to support whoever doesn't boo the other side's national anthem tonight. That's my test. And have a great match, and if you do win, well done. Yeah, that's it.
Cheers, everyone. Yes, let's see if I think the phrase is it comes home. Is it coming home?
It's coming home. Well done,
Helen. Boys.
You screwed up the most basic phrase that everyone knows is on the tip of everyone's lips. Oh dear, that's how terrible though to go out on.
Make it slightly different, and I was adding a little spin, adding a little extra.
All right, put that drink away. Bye, everyone. See you soon.
Bye.
All right then.
Extra